Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is the Model Mama Show, and I'm your host, Turnure, and I'm so excited to introduce our guest, Elle Abad, who is the founder of Land of Mom, and she just recently successfully hosted her first Happy Mom conference. I was so honored to attend. What a success.
So fun to have you.
I loved being there. It was really incredible.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your background in launching your blog, Land of Mom, and how that led you to launch the Happy Mom Conference.
Absolutely. So I have talked a little bit about this on my blog and the way that Land of Mom sort of came about accidentally. I became a mom in 2015 and I was on maternity leave from my corporate job, and at the time the environment was not the most positive for motherhood. I didn't work in a space where I felt that my new role as a mom would be as accepted and that I'd have the flexibility to be able to be the type of mom that I wanted to be. Basically, I couldn't imagine. I mean, at first I thought that, you know, having a baby would just fit into my everyday life and that I'd go back after maternity leave. I thought I had my dream job, but the more and more on maternity leave I thought about being a mom in that role, I knew that it wasn't going to work for my family. So I walked away from something that I thought was my dream job. Like I said, it was a position I worked hard for my whole life. I went to school for it. I, grew up the ranks in my industry for it.
Yeah.
But, having a baby changes everything, as I'm sure you know as well. And so many moms having to pivot after having a child. And that's exactly what happened with me. And Land of Mom was sort of accidentally born because of that. And I started to just share little tidbits and photos, and it wasn't even a blog on Instagram. I created a handle and I called it Land of Mom, and I said I'll just put pictures of my babies up and I'll start sharing, and maybe I'll connect with other moms in the social space. And sure enough, that did happen, and from there it was just a domino effect, and Land of Mom just kept growing. And I found that the more I shared my story about having to pivot in my career and having to make certain changes in my life, and dealing with that, I found that there were a lot of moms that felt the same way. And so they joined our little community. We're now called the Happy Mom Tribe. And Land of Mom was born like that.
Yeah, I know. And I love what it says on your website about how no one should mom alone. It's so true, because there's so many nuances of becoming, especially a first-time mom. But I think everybody feels that way. And I think the most empowering thing is discovering that everybody feels that way.
I agree. Yeah.
Right?
And I think with my blog, what makes it unique is that you don't mom alone, but in a sense, it's not about having the support system of like your parents or previous generations, because I felt like I had that, and I had that advice like everybody does, but there's something about being able to connect with moms that are in the same phase of motherhood as you. And Land of Mom really focuses on that new motherhood phase. And I think for me, if I didn't take Mommy and Me when I first had a baby, I don't even know where I learned everything I did about mothering from Mommy and Me versus like things my parents told me, for example, or like my mother-in-law, because they did things so differently. And I think life was so different then. And, being able to have a community that is like-minded, I think is super important.
Yes, totally. Well, it sounds like you have a great handle on motherhood, and you are promoting such a positive message. So how do you, let's just make it personal and dive into some questions so that everybody can just benefit from all of your knowledge and expertise about navigating motherhood. So let's talk about it. I'm always so curious about everybody's morning routine, because I don't know about you, but getting out of the house in the morning is always a struggle with Henry, because he's so busy, he gets distracted along the way, and we're always running 10 minutes late. So I wanted to hear what your morning routine was like.
Okay, so I will start off by saying I definitely am not in any way the balanced mom. I'm still figuring it out very much myself and just kind of going with the flow. So I have two little ones. I have Ryan, who's 3, who just turned 3, and Leo, who's 15 months old. And so they have very different needs. Our morning routine can be described as crazy pants. It is about getting Ryan, most importantly, out the door on time to get to preschool. So everything sort of revolves around that. And I think my tip for being able to do that and get out the door in time is to have a routine. I'm big on routine as a mom. I feel like the kids thrive on it, the mom thrives on it.
Yeah.
When you know what's coming next, it just makes things flow a little bit easier. And I'll give an example. So we wake up, we do our potty break for Ryan in the morning, and then we go to the family room and I get breakfast started for the boys. And once I have Leo situated in his high chair and Ryan seated at the couch enjoying some Sesame Street or whatever morning show we have on, then I run myself to the bathroom and do my little morning routine, which usually just consists of brushing my teeth, washing my face, and putting on a t-shirt and jeans to be ready to get out the door. And then on my way down the hall back to the boys, I'm literally grabbing their clothes for the day, grabbing Ryan's toothbrush so that I could brush his teeth before school. So it is always chaos, but I think that, keeping that mindset, so he knows when I'm coming with the toothbrush, okay, it's time, we're going to brush our teeth now.
Yeah, and he knows you have to do that before you get out the door.
Exactly. And then we have to put his clothes on and then we're out. So we're also running late a lot of the times too, but I think that people understand when you're a mom that, everything's not.
Yeah, it's a good excuse, I guess.
Yeah.
But what about, so becoming a mom was obviously a whole new chapter for you. It was resulted in you starting a whole new career. So can you talk about what surprised you the most?
Yeah.
Or even what your favorite part of motherhood
Okay.
is?
I'll talk about what surprised me first, and then I'll talk about my favorite.
Okay.
So for me, being independent and spontaneous before children, as I've always been my whole life before I was a mom, I think the biggest shock to me was, as much as people tried to prepare me for that big change of motherhood, I don't think I was prepared. I'm just one of those people that has to live it to know it, and people could tell me something a million times and it won't stick or hit until I've actually lived it and been through it. So I think when I had my baby, I just didn't realize, I thought naively that he would just kind of fit into my little life that I had going, and that just wasn't the case. And I think that was the biggest surprise for me, that loss of independence and not being able to be spontaneous the way I was before. And now my life revolved around my kids, so that was the biggest change. And then what I enjoy about it most, that's what you asked, right? What I enjoy about it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I love most about motherhood is being able to live through their eyes. It's it's like the littlest moments. For example, like Leo, when he's just watching a butterfly flutter like on some bushes and go into a tree, he's so amazed by that that I'm like, because why? Because that could have been the first time he ever saw a butterfly. So I look at him and I'm just like, it's being able to just live through their eyes and how they see everything is magic and everything is positive and beautiful for them, because their eyes are so fresh. They haven't seen, they haven't seen
it recenters you.
It
does. You sort of like get these constant reminders throughout the day about what's really important.
Exactly.
Because we get so caught up in these like busy lives running from thing to thing that you don't take time to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the journey. So I totally agree with you.
I agree. That's exactly what they let me do.
A lot of what we're discussing on the show is really about navigating the transition to mommyhood, which is a huge undertaking in and of itself. And I feel like people just don't give enough attention to that topic, just about how every aspect of your life really changes once you become a mom. And I think if you aren't one of those people that realize that you have to really pivot and sort of change either your career or the way that your lifestyle is set up once you become a mom, you're constantly frustrated. So you really have to sort of figure out what that is. So what was the catalyst that made you really figure out that you needed to pivot your career?
I think that a little bit of soul searching, for sure. It requires some self-care time, which is something I'm a big advocate of.
Yeah.
I think if
what
I
do you
didn't
do
have
for self-care?
Self-care, I love to meditate when I can, just quiet breathing in the morning to start my day. And sometimes
so before the kids wake up?
Before the kids wake up sometimes, but I love my sleep too, so sometimes I'm waking up with them. And again, it could be like when I've already settled them in for their breakfast and I'm going over to, wash up for the morning, I might take a minute to just breathe, even in the bathroom.
That's great.
It's just that and some time to myself after they go to bed. I like to write now. Now I work on my blog at night, but before then when I didn't have it, that was my thinking time. And I think it just took a lot of thinking of like, well, what can I do with my life? And I think motherhood, I've talked about this on my blog too, forces you to be really creative with your life.
Yeah.
And so I thought my background was in content. I was producing content pieces in the entertainment industry for feature films. And so I thought, well, how can I do that to make it fit my life now? And I thought, well, I'll create content for moms and I'll speak to the moms that maybe feel like me. And then it was, that's sort of how it all came about. And sometimes when you start something, I tell moms this too, is you don't know where it's going to go. Like I said, I was sharing on Instagram. I didn't think it was going to be a blog. I didn't think I would be hosting the Happy Mom Conference.
I know, that's incredible.
So it just kind of flows and falls into place when you start doing the things that you love that make you happy.
And what made you take it to that next step? Because obviously you have your amazing blog, but then you really wanted to take it the next step further and launch the Happy Mom Conference, which is just like a whole day of self-love for moms and women and education. It's like your blog on steroids or something.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's actually what I thought about. I was like, we need one central place for this. So the blog is a place that moms can come to, landofmom.com, to get bits of inspiration and empowerment just through what I write. A lot of the times it's about my journey. So it's subliminal, like hidden messages of inspiration, but it's not like so head on. Whereas I thought if I developed the conference, that it could be a whole day where, you know, it kind of forces the mom to take that day to herself then, because sometimes it's hard for us to make that time for self-care. So if you commit to something like a whole day's experience, then you know when you're going into it that you're going to go there and work on yourself and walk away with like gifts that are just for you, a toolkit for you.
Right.
And so inspiration on the blog is different. You're reading, you know, you're not as connected. And then at the Happy Mom Conference, you get access to these amazing speakers who are all moms doing amazing things. You get the day to like pamper yourself and just enjoy connecting with like-minded moms away from your kids and
Forces your husband to babysit for the day.
Forces your husband to babysit and gives you the free day.
What do you do to just recenter yourself or to pick yourself back up? Do you have like a pump up routine?
I think it's just breathing. Honestly, when I get to that point of, you know, every mom will get frustrated. There's just things that make you want to pull your hair out. We're not going to lie. We're not going to sugarcoat it. It's just taking a moment to myself, just walking away from whatever's happening. Sometimes it's even like turning away from them and like, you know, turning my back just so I could give myself that face of like, oh, I'm mad, but let me just take a minute to breathe, because really, you know, the kids don't know they're getting you mad. They are just being toddlers or being fresh, and they think it's funny half the time. So, so they think it's funny half the time, and you just kind of, you just have to breathe through it. I think that's for me, that's the only thing I can do to sort of, or laugh it off.
Advice. Yeah, you have to have a sense of humor for sure. Yeah. But you also have to have that stern mom face too, right?
Well, my husband, he plays the bad cop. We talk about good cop, bad cop.
That's awesome.
He thinks that I could be a little too lenient sometimes, and I mean I could be, but then we try to do good cop, bad cop, so that like both parents are not coming down on them, or we're not being too nice when we need to be disciplinary.
Yeah, and if that works for you and for your kids, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So what about, you're doing a lot of things and being an amazing mom of 2 boys, which is incredible. What would your biggest piece of advice be for women that are trying to achieve balance between juggling a career and being a mom?
I think that it's important to separate the worlds if you can. If you don't have the help of a nanny or a family member, someone that can take the kids off your hands so that you could completely separate and focus on business. If you don't have that luxury, yes, the worlds have to collide sometimes, but there's still ways to separate. I am mostly a full-time mama, and on some days I do have help on a couple of days a week. But when I don't have the help, the time I find to work is at night when they go to sleep. I try to separate it. I mean, of course, there's times I do have to respond to an urgent email or get on my phone and respond to something when I am with them, but I try not to do that. I try to put the electronics away and just focus on them when I'm with them. So my advice is if you can separate the 2 worlds, motherhood and business, try to do that, whether it's when they sleep or you work before they wake up. And if you have help, just get out of the house to work. It helps to get into a new space. I like to work at coffee shops. I didn't get an office space for a reason. I like kind of changing my workspace.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, do whatever inspires you.
Yeah.
Well, wow, what incredible advice from you. Thank you for coming and sharing all of
Thank you so
your
much for having me.
tips and insight. Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys, thank you for tuning in. And Elle, you are seriously a dream and so inspiring.
You're amazing. I
You're
am so happy to be on here with you.
Oh, well, you were so sweet. This has been so, I feel like I've learned so much. You guys, I'm excited. Hope you were taking notes. But you can find more tips from her on landofmom.com and make sure to buy your tickets next year because it sounds like there's going to be a second Happy Mom Conference coming.
Absolutely. Year after,
Okay.
it'll be an annual thing for sure.
Oh, that's so exciting. I'm so happy to hear that. Well, thank you.